Can I just refer to the Bill of 2020, or the Act of 2021 when it was first introduced, which saw areas pedestrianised, and there was a lack of consultation with disabled people and disabled persons organisations at the time, because some areas were pedestrianised, disabled parking spaces were moved without prior consultation, often to areas that weren't very suitable, and we saw outdoor areas for dining and consumption of alcohol put in place, which again was very welcome and necessary at the time. But again, people with mobility issues and people with visual impairments weren't considered, and their rights, were affected. So it's just something that should be considered on an ongoing basis. If something like this happened, everybody's rights should be taken into account. But Sinn Féin supports the measures in this motion, as broadly speaking they have worked well. And the ability of businesses to diversify through serving drinks outdoors has proven important, and whilst it has not saved the pub and hospitality sector more generally, it has overall been a positive. Of course, we do have some concerns. The first relates to the legal certainty required around these measures. The Government has, of course, confirmed, as you echoed in your speech, Minister, that provisions related to outdoor seating will form a part of the forthcoming Intoxicating Liquor Bill 2024. I'd just like to comment on the splitting of the Sale of Alcohol Bill, a large piece of legislation that has already undergone pre-legislative scrutiny. And the bill must strike a balance between the economic contribution made by the nighttime economy and the hospitality sector more generally versus the health, workers' rights and public safety concerns many have. The outdoor seating provisions being paired with opening hours, annual late bar and nightclub permits and other measures does make sense. But I would be hopeful we can see more details on these proposals soon. I assume they will be similar to what was presented at pre-legislative scrutiny, but you might let us know more, Minister, as to what it contains and whether the provisions for outdoor seating differ from what we are discussing. I wish to discuss in further detail the concerns I mentioned, beginning with the business supports to the sector, which were a feature during the pandemic. The outrageous costs we now see, which both business and workers struggle with, has necessitated further supports, but more can be done. We have called for the Government to engage with industry to design a bespoke but time-limited support for those sectors most impacted by public policy interventions and other additional costs. The hospitality sector is self-evidently very much one of these sectors, and the reopening of the increased cost of business grant is welcome, but we need clarity and swift delivery. It's not surprising that businesses were confused and that less than 50% of qualifying business had applied before it closed on the 30th of April. And this, of course, led to the scheme reopening. My colleague, Dr. Louise O'Reilly, has received data that demonstrates many businesses have either not had their applications processed or received their money. Only 17% of businesses have had their applications approved nationally to date, and 10.7% have had grant money paid to them. I would also note that the hospitality sector, along with retail, made up 40% of the total number of insolvencies in Q1 of 2024. Jobs are disappearing, especially in rural areas such as Cavan and Monaghan. And this affects workers badly, who already see so many issues within the hospitality sector. Hours are long, pay can be meagre, and abuse and exploitation runs rife. We need to see better protections accompany any expansion in capacity for the sector. Similarly, the public order and public health aspects of the hospitality sector need to be properly evaluated before any changes to the provision of alcohol. It is telling that the Minister for Health sounded the alarm about the alcohol bill, writing to the Minister for Justice to ask what risk assessments had been completed in relation to its provisions. And my colleague, Thomas Gould, in his capacity as spokesperson for recovery and addiction for Sinn Féin, has written to the Minister previously asking for the same assessments. And this presumably influenced the splitting of the bill, and no measure should be introduced without an assessment of the implications for Gardaí and healthcare staff, as well as local communities. So we will not oppose this bill for the aforementioned reasons. However, we would welcome a debate on the permanent legislation, and I would urge some transparency around what assessments are to be done and the effects of that legislation.